in that second rotation.
Because he's got such a big pool, and you're talking about Viper. He could really adapt, but hey, let's not look at bottom lane at all. They've just got the Lee Sin, they've got the Diana. Things that are powerful within the LPL meta, but more importantly, that have great setup. Look at the all-in that EDG have already created.
Yeah, that's a hell of a lot of plays, and I know we saw Doomby having his magnificent performance on the Lee Sin yesterday. Scout, another mid laner that has been incredibly strong on this Lee Sin pick, especially when it comes towards those engages, so I'm excited to see what he can do, but we are going to get the Ezreal locked in for Loken. Wouldn't be surprised to see some support bans come through from JDG here, fresh, like forefront in my mind right now, especially after the last game, so wouldn't be surprised to see like Thresh, Nautilus taken off the board here by JDG. Whereas on EDG side, I think you kind of start to look towards the mid laners that you'd like to see picked away, especially because you got a blind pick. Oh, well, you've already got the Lee Sin here, but certainly things that can do well against them does seem to be the best protocol.
Things that might be towards the setup. So it's brought their iPad. I couldn't actually quite make that out whether that was
I think it was
Jiejie or Scout.
Yeah, I think it was Scout.
Apologizing. Okay. Well, I love, again, today, the fans have been quite ingenious with their signs, apparently the iPad as well. I wonder how you charge it, because obviously you're going to hold it up quite a lot. You probably charge it in the breaks from the game. Anyway, moving forward, you talked about mid lane, and Syle's definitely one of them. I think as well, if we're mentioning Yagao, something like the Zoe needs to be thought about by EDG, because the Zoe with the setup with Zhao, you know, we already have a Gwen. It would create a lot of AP, but it would add so much poke to an already Ezreal composition.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of poke. It is a difficult matchup though against the Lee Sin, because Lee Sin's able to follow up very effectively through the portals, can also like hop past the wave and get on top of Zoe, and that's a lot of the times where Zoe struggles, so not going to be seeing it, at least in the ban phase. I think LeBlanc, a strong ban here, just again, you're trying to get rid of these things that can be blind pickable, but we're actually getting a no ban from JDG. And that's an interesting one. Looks like they didn't want to try and ban away a lot of their own picks, but I think taking the Nautilus away, then maybe going towards something like the LEona could have worked out really well for them here, but looks like we are going to be going towards that pick. The poke style coming back in for JDG. I'm just saying though, not the best matchup here against Scout on the Lee Sin. We've seen Scout dominate these matchups before, so we'll have to see if Yagao can have a better time.
I just want to say on the no ban, I mean, I can't remember who I was talking to about it, but sometimes players just forget. They look for a champion, they can't find it, they leave it to the last second, and sometimes you miss a ban. Stuff happens. Well, on EDG, they're not missing picks, they're not missing bans, they're definitely not missing the engage this game. They're all inning on dive, lockdown, LEona with Kalista, why not?
Okay, so I'm a little bit surprised by this one. The Kalista, in a composition that we've already talked about, has a good amount of range, right? Between the Ezreal and that Zoe. Makes it a little bit more difficult for the Kalista to have those big impacts. But also, like, you're against the Gwen. Gwen can do so much work against the Kalista because you're relatively short range. You got that Hollowed Mist. You're going to be in range in a lot of situations for the needlework. So I'm not a big fan of the Kalista. I'll be curious to see how Viper actually makes it work in team fights. But to be honest, I'm not a fan of Kalista in general in the current meta, but we'll have to see how this one goes. I think something along the lines of the Varus pick could have worked out pretty well here instead, or even something like the Senna instead. But look, here we are, and we're gonna have to see if EDG can make this short range bruiser dive composition work in their favor.
And I want to also say that if we get late for EDG, where's the damage going to come from? Dyna has burst, and sure, like Dyna doesn't scale horribly, but even if you're not going against hard tanks in JDG, you have Kalista, Lee Sin, Sett, Diana, LEona. Like, if you don't get the ball rolling here, Dagda, it feels like JDG have a very nice way to play this game out calmly and get these poke champions to 2-3 items. They're never going to have a problem, and sure, there's going to be a lot of frontline that they have to deal with, but there's always going to be that armor pen, that magic pen that will get through and provide consistent DPS that EDG might not be able to deal with.
Yeah, at least the good news here for EDG is, like, objective control wise, they're in their favor, right? Kalista control bot side, starts to move over towards that dragon, and they can start to build them up. So they can try and force JDG to take these fights before they actually end up in a situation where the later game scaling has come online for JDG. But even then, like, the scaling from JDG, isn't even that crazy, right? I mean, Ezreal, he does relatively well later, definitely does better than the Kalista, but he still kind of spikes around that 2 to 3 out of mark. You look towards the Zoe as well, Luden's Tempest, Horizon Focus, that's where she's strongest. So you don't have the crazy scaling on JDG's side, apart from someone like Zoom.
Yeah, I'll say that if it does get towards the late game, like, look at the Gwen. The Gwen is going to be unmatched, uncontested, and in the LPL, we've used Gwens quite often for team fight pressure. It's always the Sonya's Hourglass second, instead of something like the Nash's Tooth. We'll see how Zoom adapts coming into this game, as EDG already with the 1-0 start. If you missed the first game, they tore JDG asunder in one of the big team fights in the bottom lane, or at least towards Dragon. You can hear the gyros, unfortunately we can't, but feel that spirit, feel the embodiment here in Shanghai. JDG versus EDG is a matchup we've been waiting for a while, because JDG were 2020 champions, 2020 heroes, you could say as well. But ever since Worlds, been in a bit of a slump, been a bit slow going, and JDG have been, in my eyes, a small disappointment. So EDG show them well in game number 1, and we're going to see if JDG can show them better in this second version. Dagda, where do you want to start?
Well, I think the big thing here is I'm already liking JJ's pathing, right? Starting on this top side, we talked about playing down towards the Kalista in the bottom lane. And when you've got the LEona here, LEona is a champion that can enable JJ to go for these early ganks. So trying to play down towards that side, look towards those early dragons, I really like this stuff.
Well, up in this blue buff, you'll be able to get both as well. Remember that Diana gets a little bit low in the clear, but this might
No,
be
Meiko's flash.
Yeah, that's an early flash. You'll have Hex Flash. Remember, that's not disabled anymore, but good start for JDG's bottom lane that was getting absolutely slaughtered in game 1.
Yeah, and we'll give it a little bit more safety. You can see as well, like, you have the LEona that's so this is a bit of a funky one, because LEona used to be considered a fairly good matchup into the Rakan, because you could try and follow him and he tried to dash away. But over time, actually Rakans have learned to deal with that, how to play around it, and they're not just like instantly dashing back. So now Rakan is actually in an okay spot against the LEona in a lot of situations. So definitely not as favored as it once was believed, but I still think just because of the AD carry matchup, you will see a hell of a lot more pressure from Meiko in this lane, as you can already see trying to get these early trades off.
And they've hit 2 first on the Kalista with Halo Blades plus LEona, you already mentioned. Loken and LvMao are going to have to pay respect, so everything changes from here. Another massive wave building. And even though JDG spot out Jiejie on the return path, it doesn't matter. Knowing that Jiejie's down here is half the battle. Dealing with anything to do with that bottom lane is the next half. And right now, Jiejie will keep on clearing, and Kanavi's going to hope that he can get an avenue in the top side. But once again, Flandre holding the wave at his turret, Zoom's pushed in. And it looks like a very rinse and repeat game number 2 as to what we saw in the first version.
Yeah, and honestly, like, with level 3 being hit across the board, top lane's kind of the only spot Kanavi can go, because Scout, when at least it hits that level 3, just takes on a completely different level, full access to his mobility, and especially against that Zoe, with the ability to, like, threaten a Sonic Wave, threaten a Ward Hop, but maybe threaten a dive.
Even on the ward, Jiejie doesn't care. He's level 4. The TP already burns out into a corner. Loken driven, bursted down. First blood over to Viper. Meiko takes up just the right amount. As TP was cancelled, actually. LvMao jumped back in. Viper takes up. Look, Dagda. No one dies.
And you have no TP in the mid lane. Yagao opted for the Ignite, so even though Yagao stopped the TP, he's not able to turn that around.
True.
And Zoom, he's not in a position to try and follow down a Scout.
He's jumping in. Ignite's there, tagged up. No, not by Kanavi, so doesn't even have to burn the flash.
And this is exactly the start we wanted from EDG. Oh,
he's in! He's dead, but you know that as soon as he was tagged by Kanavi, that dive was happening, so Scout went for the 50-50.
Oh, it's so sad. Not quite able to make it happen, but look, at least something going back in JDG's favor, because 2 kills now towards Viper. Kalista, a champion that can snowball so aggressively. And I love this terror dive from EDG. The juggling of the turret aggro is absolutely insane. The exhaust onto Jiejie may not have been the best call here. Jiejie not actually going to have a huge amount of damage in these early stages, more reliant on that passive damage. But you can see here, right? Viper goes in, sets up that second dive after the resets, and he's perfectly fine because he's nice and healthy. So unfortunately for JDG, not quite able to turn that one around. Now Viper, Noon Quiver and Pocket can look to again continue bullying this bot lane.
And a lot of Kalistas we've seen in the LPL not get ahead early. Remember IG, it was Puff, I believe, who we just kind of saw play the Kalista, not do too much in lane and fall off because that's what Kalista does. But when you snowball early, always good news. I want to give another semblance because it's important to note that JDG getting a kill in the mid lane was nice for Kanavi to stick around. It was a great response with how the game was going after the bottom lane dive, and we do have a semblance of some control here for the Zoe, for Kanavi now. I'm just curious as to how he uses it and if Kanavi can get anything done in the bottom lane.
Hey, well, we've got at least Kanavi here, but look at where Jiejie is. Not too far from the play either. Has that flash as well to get in, so needs to be careful.
Trying not to be too sus. Loken gets low, Viper without any mana. Yeah, you know, that was a good game of Amogus. Jiejie, the dive, 2.0 Viper! He doesn't even need the team, that's a solo kill! Jiejie now with the Pale Cascade, LvMao running away, the dive continues onto Kanavi. Viper's actually a machine. Someone needs to check that this is really him at the computer. That's insane how good this guy is.
Yeah, you're saying JDG don't want to look sus, but Loken's the imposter the whole time. Gives over the solo kill after taking so much damage. And then with the TP in from Flandre, they get another. That's 4 kills onto Viper right now. And Kalista is taking over on this bottom half of the map.
Man, Dagda's at 4-1-T. I mean, it's going on in the mid lane too. Kick back. Flandre's here. He's just been walking up casually. As he flashes in for the face breaker, Jiejie takes the kill. Showstopper down, and EDG 5-1 in game number 2. A 2k gold lead, Dagda. And bit of disrespect from JDG in the bottom lane, bit of disrespect in the mid lane. EDG love disrespect, they eat it up for dinner.
I mean, look, they've kind of deserved it at this stage. They've been walking around, taking everything from JDG, and it's not even candy from a baby at this point. It's just been left on its own. They get the kills on bot side, 4 kills now. They get that kill in mid, like Seagulls fighting over who was going to get the scraps because Yagao was dead either way. You now got JJ with a kill. Dragon going to Kanavi is actually pretty good though. JDG been able to slow the pace just a tad by getting this, but you can see EDG, they're aware. We're just going to let it happen.
Kalista, who's forward 0. It's kind of like Draven, right? Where, you know, if a champion gets ahead early, there's good flash here from Yagao. Steals one, able to get another cleanse as well. Paddle Star onto Scout. And there's the response. Ooh. Scout lands a Sonic Wave. He's not going to take it this time around. Further to the point, Dagda, it kind of like Draven, right? You know, if a champion gets ahead early, the game feels very hard to play. And even though there's a long-range poke, Viper still 4-0. Now coming in the mid lane, Jiejie comes in, Moon falls down. Yagao doesn't have his real flash. He burnt the fake one, steals that one away. Gets a bit of movement speed, the trouble bubble as well. Follow up, but the Crescent Strike lands in the end. It was close, it was worth it. Meanwhile, Loken under turret as soon as LvMao goes away. Viper, he's got a trick or two.
Yeah, Viper nearly getting another solo kill underneath the tower, but not quite able to do so. EDG, they get the plays in mid, they turn that to Rift Herald, and EDG are opening up this game like there's nobody's business. 6-1, 3,000 gold nearly on the lead for EDG, and with the Rift Herald, they're going to be able to slam down in the lane. There's no doubt that's going to happen, but you can already see, right? We talked about these lanes. Yagao not able to function against the Lee Sin. This is why I actually didn't want to see it picked into the Lee Sin matchup. It's so hard to play against, especially when your flash is down. And then on that bottom side again, nearly able to get the solo kill there for Viper underneath the tower.
It's hard because LvMao wants to match Meiko. I mean, a lot of people will look at Loken and be like, Loken, you know, big Omega lol. But Loken at this point, after everything went wrong, after the flash came through and Viper played the game of Risk, Loken now in the worst position where he can't stand to be near Viper. He'll gap close through the minion wave. He's already got the Berserker Greaves. Noon Quiver, as Dagda mentioned. That full completed Mythic will be there soon. And LvMao, as you can see here, has to roam. Loken has to sit at the base of turret and just hope that he can pick up minions without getting disrupted or dove himself.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that, like, usually you're like, well, you know, Ezreal, he's fine, he'll go and farm. He's so far behind right now, he can't. Like, the opportunity for Meiko and Viper to dive this is actually insane. Plus, don't forget, you've got that opportunity to reset the reset the aggro, thanks to the Fate's Call as well. And you can see Viper, Q-Max, it can hurt when it hits. And it's definitely hitting in this game.
I mean, also, if you get the Ren, remember, if you Q through the minion, the Ren stacks follow through into the target behind. Moonfall mid. Yagao's just dead again. I mean, JDG's mid laner, too far up in the lane. He already burnt the flash. And with this Lee Sin Diana duo, there is so much crowd control that you have to burn summoners on repeat.
Alright. Kanavi hover around this bottom side, but I'd like to make a formal apology to everyone in the podcast.
Okay.
We promised bangers here today. And unfortunately, I tweeted out that we were going to get a 9-game day.
You did.
And I can't help but feel somewhat responsible that we've now had 2 whitewashes back to back in these 2 series. I really thought we were going to get a lot of action and a lot of really close games, but honestly, this is kind of just sad.
Dude, it's like me saying that LNG will lose to IG. I mean, people look at that and think, dude, how does this guy get paid to cast? Honestly. And now JDG, you know, putting up the same performance we've seen in the past, but EDG looking fantastic as ever. Loken is continuing to be bullied. Here comes the backline access from Meiko. They're on to Viper. The Kalista kiting away, still alive, flashes out. The burn from Red Buff. Here comes Yagao. Just get the kill. Someone needs to kill Viper. Get the bounty. Yagao accessing a different kind of backline in Scout Meiko right now as Kanavi gets a knock-up. Sonic Wave doesn't connect onto anyone. Yagao looking for it, flashes in. Fate's Call saves the day. And I just can't believe Jiejie's the only one that died.
Hey, good play from JDG though. We just said, look, this is looking a little bit sad, but they're coming back. They're trying to find these moments. You get able to get the roam, and it gets a kill back in their favor, at least very close to being able to shut down a lot of what EDG were trying to do. But Terror remains standing. You still got a little bit of goal back in hands of Loken, but you can see like 2,500 gold lead for the Kalista right now. She is massive, and this is the problem with the Zoe. You have to like instant flash whenever a Sonic Wave lands, and you've got no pressure in that lane. Like, I really don't know what Yagao was thinking. Yes, it fits the composition, but when you're just gonna get styled on a lane all the time, it doesn't matter. And here Viper challenging spite nearly finishes off the low health Kalista, but just a nice job there. Meiko gets the CC alongside Scout to keep this Kalista barely safe on the back line.
What did Loken altered down, like straight down instead of aiming for Viper? That's kind of interesting. I guess he thought the kill was already done and he wanted to, but that was Meiko on the right. So I'm just kind of questioning a game where it has been massive bot diff. You type it in all chat, you do a capital L for lol, and you tell them that this has been bot diff, because in both these games, even without jungle influence, Viper and Meiko have been the better bot, hands down. And it is a shame Loken coming back after LPC last match, but still, I mean, JDG's bottom lane continues to be a bit of an issue, even though I was talking about before, don't blame Loken, but at this point, you know, it still hasn't been his best game. A 40 CS down in that bottom lane to speak of. JDG grouping up towards mid, hoping they can find some access in this game number 2 to take it all the way, but almost a 5k gold lead. Now Viper's in the mid lane with his Immortal Shield Bow. I don't know how much he's sitting on Dagda, but he's got 6k in comparison to Loken's 3.7.
Sorry, I'm kind of distracted.
But
what skin is that the Viper's using? Because it looks like the
blood
love
one or
child
not?
of like Zyra and Evelyn.
You're a color caster. You don't need to care about skins. Lyric never cares about skins. I always ask him.
Yeah, I don't know. So honestly, I don't care. It's just really weird. I don't know. I don't think it's Blood Moon, because Blood Moon has more white in it. I don't know if it's one of the newer skins.
Okay.
Maybe it's with a. Does it have a chroma? I don't know.
I don't know. It looks like it has a really small hitbox. Like, looks like Kalista's lost like 2 kilograms on it or something as well. So I don't know. It's quite interesting. Someone said Marauder as well. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, buy the skins. EDG at this point, look, skins aside, we're talking about nonsense because
marketing, baby. Let's go.
Because cheers to the person that whispered me Marauder. I appreciate that. Viper 1v2ing, that's gonna happen. But we're just waiting for next Dragon, waiting for, you know, potential next Herald. Anything's available right now. Even if EDG slow down, just remember, because they're so far ahead, it doesn't matter talking about scaling at this point, because EDG control the map and will for the next 20 minutes, and they're looking for picks. They're setting out their squad.
Yeah, and I mean, the big thing here is like, oh yeah, well, you know, we talked about the range that you could have on JDG's side. Well, Yagao was well behind completing the first item because he's 0-3. Loken as well is so far behind. Like, the damage that they're able to turn out is pretty negligible at this stage. And it means that when we actually get to these fights, you don't really have enough damage to come through, especially with Flandre. He'll have that Hysterics coming underway now. So unless JDG can, by some miracle, like, draw these fights painfully long, where they can continue to hammer away with mystic shots and the battle stars, maybe they can find the engagements that they want. But again, like EDG, they're so good at playing the map. They don't just rely on these objectives. And now they're moving topside.
They're going to draw JDG here, but Herald's going to get an easy charge. The kill going over to Viper. At least a turret kill. Look at the TP in the backline though. Zoom going to be spotted out in the ward. Viper needs to get away, but Yagao's there. Poke damage over to Jiejie. This is great for JDG. They have to kill Viper though. Zoom into the backline. He's taken away by Flandre, who's actually zoning him away. JDG still grouped up while Flandre is just dunking him into the dirt. It's not a solo kill, but it looks like it. While the rest of JDG now have to worry about the Goon Squad coming in. Scout Sonic Wave once again forces the flash away. He has his own with the Dragon Rage. He won't get poked down though. Loken missing everything this game. And EDG now running with the rest of them.
Scout still had his flash and that dragon kick, so I was kind of waiting for it. But again, JDG trying to start this play. EDG put them back in their place, and stylish plays coming through from Flandre on this set. We said we probably weren't going to see it in game number 2. Pretty glad we're getting to see it in game number 2.
He's so good.
Mid lane tier 2 went down to the middle of that as well. So you're already looking at several towers picked up for EDG. 4 gone off the map. Dragon in a minute and a half. Just a ballooning gold lead as well. EDG have full control of this game.
I feel really sorry for Loken. I don't know what's going on here. He's had a couple of series like this already in the split. I've harped on it a little bit too much, so I'll leave it here. But you know, Dagda, I've met the guy in real life. He's a real warm person. So yeah, we're not going to talk about the tweet, of course. But dude, Flandre is actually on a tear this series. Look at the flash. Oh my god.
Look at the moves. Flandre. What was that?
Yeah,
as he goes again.
And he's just going to nail Zoom into the wall. Jiejie picks up the kill. True shot barrage. Tags was just great, but Viper around the corner waiting. LvMao and Kanavi jumping back in. Scout, kick flash over to Viper. Thanks for the contribution. It's not Aurelian Soul, but it's definitely universal that EDG are taking over this game.
Yeah, there's just nowhere for JDG to hide. Everywhere they go, EDG are sure to follow. And now you got pressure in bot, you got pressure in mid as well. And we talked about, hey, look, you know, late game scaling. I don't think we care anymore. Scout now 1v1 against Kanavi.
He's not going to take it though. Knows that against the Jeweler
steals it anyway.
He doesn't care. He steals it away with the Sonic Wave. And meanwhile, bot inner turret goes down. Dotting the I's, crossing the T's. It's a 9k gold lead all of a sudden. 17 minutes in, get another dragon. Looks way too easy, and JDG, all they can hope for is that this game goes for another 20 minutes, Dagda, another 15 at the absolute minimum, so that they can get some damage onto Yagao, onto Loken. A pick as well might be nice. Jiejie flashing away, but into the back line. They've found themselves Viper. They need to kill him, though. He's exhausted down. Kanavi with the Crescent Guard back on top, but the Immortal Shield Bow, he's burning, and Loken finally gets the job done. Jiejie in there as well. JDG, that's 2 big picks. And of course, the bounty off of Viper and Jiejie's heads.
They just about managed to get it as well. That was nearly a good turnaround, but unfortunately, Flandre not being able to get the showstopper in time. And then as well, you just saw the damage that could come through. Loken getting his way, working through that fight to finish off the low health bars. And Jiejie here just gets slowed, not able to get away. And then I'd like this at least for Meiko, trying to see if he can stop it. Facebreaker as well nearly makes this a good one, but with Viper being exhausted, Kanavi getting a whole heap of damage off from the back line, there's just nobody left, especially with Scout not being there to help out.
I love that Kanavi wouldn't say die to the play. It wasn't enough for the flash. It needed to end there and stop the momentum of EDG, and it's done that. Scout might even be caught out as well, targeted down, and waiting for him is LvMao. Scout with one more hit will die. The Solar Flare can't save his life. And EDG, they're giving away quite a bit over to JDG.
Yeah, a lot of picks now happening, and it's just disrespect, honestly. We were talking about them having a bit of disrespectful gameplay, but now giving these picks across, not waiting for the lanes to be in a position, that's going to put a little bit of pressure onto EDG, where they just got to go, right guys, no, we need to slow this down. We have the lead here. We're 7,000 gold up. We don't have a composition that has that late game consideration with the Gwen, so let's just take it slow and get ourselves back on track.
And I want to point out that for EDG, while those picks were quite meaningful to give over, obviously didn't do it on purpose, but if EDG give that over another couple of times, JDG start getting those core items we're talking about, they start getting Gwen in a better position, JDG get the game to go longer, EDG still have massive control, and let's not understate that that is still a 6k gold lead at 20 minutes. But it was almost 9, almost 10 moments before. So we'll see if JDG can get those picks once again, find EDG out in rotation. And if EDG get caught, then we'll start considering the fact that JDG could be coming back into this game. But for now, we wait for the Dragon, we wait for the potential threat of Baron over the Trouble Bubble. Bit of a mistake by Viper, excuse me, as he walks away, won't be caught out any further.
Yeah, you can see though, EDG, they've kind of taken the few picks that JDG have gotten seriously now. Grouped up as 5, they're not given the opportunity for JDG to continue these picks as EDG get full control of top side, knowing the Baron's up, you're going to look for this tower, and as JDG, you got to go the long way round to try and help support this top lane play.
See if Kanavi can get on in. Jiejie out on the rim, Meiko, Viper, and Scout grouped up together. Look at where Flandre is. He has teleport, but he's guiding the mid lane wave all the way to its end delivery point. You know, tried to get posted with that one, but I didn't. Flandre moving towards the side brush, just clearing out some vision. Bot lane wave is pushing in as well. EDG have set this up so there's going to be pressure points in multiple areas. But no one from JDG is walking too far forward. I like this. Really learning from the mistakes of this game. They're not overstepping, clearing out vision as a 2-3 man unit at least.
And EDG do need to commit, as they do with Meiko.
Okay, Meiko's in with a solar flare, but Everfrosted down. Bit of damage coming out of Zoom, who's frontlining for now. Jiejie jumps on in. Scout in the backline with the Sonic Wave, but will he take it? No Lee Syndrome in this play. EDG backing away. The needlework was used by Zoom. And that's what can happen here. Meiko still with great catch potential. He's Ignite used for the trade.
Yeah, if we end up in these situations where EDG aren't committing to this play, it gives the opportunity for Yagao to start to poke for the Mystic shots from Loken to hit, and that becomes a bit of an issue for EDG. So Meiko probably going a bit too ambitious there, but definitely I could understand why he's trying to make this play happen, because they are under pressure, but don't get any picks. They will just reset, coming for the Dragon in 40 seconds, and already you can see Flandre keeping control of River, stopping JDG from actually getting that vision that they'd love to have to contest this Dragon properly.
Because if we get an Ocean Soul, I think for EDG, the conversation comes back up again that Viper will be able to survive longer. They will be able to play with the gap close. Meiko trying to do that right now, but no Solar Flare available. Ocean Soul definitely not something against this poke comp you want to give away. You know, partial poke comp we should say as well. Yagao
one of the big
Loken.
things
Go for it, Dagda.
for LvMao is not having his Shirelles available. This Rakan's actually been put really far behind, and don't forget the W for Rakan scales with movement speed. Shirelles is a massive buff to that and makes it really difficult for players to be able to escape away. So not having that available means you're pretty reliant on your flash. Now it does have it open available for this fight, but would love to have both the Shirelles done as well.
Good tag there from Jiejie. Yagao doing the same. That's a Proto Belt, ladies and gentlemen, not a powder keg in Yagao's inventory. Always confuses me. As Sonic Wave lands into Zoom, the backline. Meiko sets it up. Look at Scout. Kicks away Loken, but the True Shot Barrage still lands. Flandre for the disengage, but only sets up space. Haymaker zone control. Backline Jiejie. The moon will fall. As Meiko's still alive, Scout and Viper dealing with Zoom. Viper ready to go over the wall. Zoom only just skipping and slashing away. But EDG with 5 to stay. That's what you wanted to see from EDG to try and clean up this game.
Yeah, and you know how far Viper is ahead when he's playing melee range with Zoom.
They know where he is.
He's not going to get him.
Close enough. All right, well, Zoom only just getting out, but Dragon will go over in the end.
Yeah, and again, Dragon goes their way, the fight goes their way, more gold being input into this EDG side, and now they can start to look towards Baron. But you can watch here, engage from Meiko on towards LvMao. You get that great follow-up from Flandre, but I'm watching the left-hand side of this fight because Scout is doing a great job of keeping Zoom busy, making sure that the needlework isn't able to get onto Viper. The Gwen can do so much work in these against these short-range compositions, but you can see that whole time Zoom is being forced away as we get the rest of EDG pushing back JDG on the top side of that fight.
I love Jiejie's ult as well versus 3. Ends up winning the trade, bursting down a couple of members. Now 6-2 and 7. Note the Zhonya's Hourglass that was used there, but we've also got a Morellonomicon. 3 item on Jiejie, 3 items onto Viper, who's got the Wit's End. Good when you're going up against a Gwen, a Zoe, that are going to be right on top of you. I think it's important to note that Wit's End as well, the attack speed with Quintus is just going to be unbearable when Viper is in these fights and getting that space. EDG back in control, back in the driver's seat. Baron a very real threat when you have Smite and Kalista Rend. EDG going to start it right up.
I'm going to look at Zoom as well, because Zoom's actually gone full glass cannon. He's going to be going towards that Cosmic Drive, which is just completed. So he doesn't have that Zhonya's to keep himself safe. He needs to one-shot people, but
this
his team's being one-shot.
I mean, Baron is just being done, and EDG know that Zoom's not there because TP was burnt before to get out. So they jump on the play. Kanavi first. Loken was actually first. It's Kanavi second. Fate's call from Viper in again. Meiko ready with the Zenith Blade. And Scout as well, ready to jump back in. Zoom frontlining for now. The facebreaker from Flandre absorbed up with the haymaker damage. Viper runs forward. And EDG again. No one dies as Scouts dive in the Nexus turrets. Runs forward with a Warthog. Scout will not live. But EDG should have the game in the palm of their hands.
He goes down for a good cause, though, shutting down the last member of JDG. And now EDG, 4 strong, can look to end this game in a clean 2-0.
They might not be first here, but 6-0, well on their way to being the dominant team in the LPL. They'll lock in second at the end of week number 3 to put their stamp on summer 2021.
And convincing fashion as well. EDG honestly walked over JDG that game. Complete domination game number 1 when it came towards outplaying them across the map. And then we get into game 2 again. Viper dictating the pace of that bottom lane, getting these massive leads that EDG are able to play around. And from that point forward, a couple of picks here and there that went astray, but the team fighting again from EDG was way too strong.
It really was, and you said walked over them in that game. It was the series. It was the entire series where EDG never felt like they were, the weaker team. It was through laning phases. It was through jungle control. As Jiejie said in the interview, they're going to make sure they shut down Kanavi and control jungle. They did that from game 1 all the way to the end of game 2. So props to EDG for continuing this narrative that they feel like the cleanest team in the LPL. They are the team that has pulled off the most 2-0s as well, remembering that they're now 12-1 in individual game score. BLG in the first week, the first series, was the only team to drive them to a game number 3. Apart from that, 2-0s. This team is a force to be reckoned with and building off the momentum that they came in with in spring 2021.
And that's what I was going to say. It really feels like we're starting to see the same from EDG's last bit. Like last bit, 13-3. They only dropped a handful of games as well. Like, I don't know if there actually is a lot of people that can try and contest them right now, though. Because at least last year, like just looking at it, last split, they end up dropping a handful of games towards teams like RNG, Top Esports, but both of them are slumping the loss at the moment. We're seeing Top Esports struggling. RNG did have a solid game of their solid last series, but still not looking back on form, because they're just coming back from MSI. So I think for EDG, this is looking like a very confident and dominant split from them.
It's only until they get to Top Esports at the end of week 4 that I'll start questioning a little bit, see if Top Esports can bring through lane dominance. RNG is always a classic matchup when you talk about EDG in the LPL.
Yeah.
WE week 7 and FPX LNG, we have to wait to week number 9 to find out who the potential best team is. EDG 6-0 Dagda, I mean, it has just been such a good split for them, and I know a lot of people have been talking about LNG, but EDG, not just on paper, but in-game, do definitely look like the strongest team right now. There has been a lack of weakness, a lack of structure. I could have just said the lack of no structure. So there's been good structure, if you didn't get that point. And
we're working your sentence structure, don't worry.
Yeah. I got there on the end. Double negative always makes it hard. I want to start with the most important part. Viper and Meiko, one of the strongest 2v2 lanes, hands down, in the LPL. I'd even say in the world right now.
Yeah, they look absolutely dominant. I mean, Viper has been unstoppable since he joined the LPL. There was a lot of consideration being like, is it Jiejie Love? Is it Viper's the best AD carry? Viper's blown that conversation out of the water. He's been absolutely unstoppable. And I think as well for EDG, step ups across the board, right? Like Scout again on this Lee Sin looks really, really strong. We saw some great mechanical plays coming through from him. Jiejie, I feel like Jiejie doesn't get enough praise just because of how good everyone else on the team is. But Jiejie has so much control in the early stages, is playing so well towards his lanes. Like we see him consistently getting Scout ahead, making those plays happen on the bottom side of the map, working so well with the rest of the team. Like this whole squad just works so well together.
That's why I talked about Jiejie on a nice little accelerating slope, I guess, ramp up.
Yeah.
That he, since 2019, since entering the league, when Clear Love kind of took a step back, and he did come later in spring playoffs 2019, but dude, Jiejie has just been that developing jungler, and you're right, someone that's always kind of been underestimated. I was just looking through EDG losses in spring. Top Esports was one of them, because remember, they only had 3 series that they dropped.
Yeah.
Other against RNG, and then the final one, I believe, IG. About IG at the moment. Dagda, there's damage numbers for you. You know it's going to be large. Hey, sure, Loken did more, but Viper he had a lot of people around him ready to dive, and this Kalista solo killed Loken on his way back to his turret.
Yeah, Viper in lane looked absolutely phenomenal. Out of lane, it became a little bit more difficult for him to deal that damage. Obviously, you got the Crescent card that's keeping Kanavi safe. You have the Hollowed Mist that's keeping Zoom safe, which is why you're seeing Jiejie being the most damage dealt in this game. Like, nearly 18,000 damage. The Moonfalls were on point. They were setting up the team so splendidly. And as well, alongside Flandre, who had his moments as well. Just, again, that, like, the dive combo that we had working for them was insane.
Jiejie picks up MVP. Let's not say he doesn't get recognized this time around. He definitely does. Jiejie's Diana was fantastic. You know, you bring it up there, and I'm glad to see it. The biggest thing for me, Dagda, is Jiejie's versatility. Champion pool. It may only be MVP number 2, but you're right. He has been a part of some of the bigger wins, and most often the reason.
Yeah, and I'm delighted that we're getting to see a little bit more from him, right? Because as you said, that upward trajectory, a lot of people were kind of talking about, oh, last year, is it Junja? Is it Jiejie? Who do we want to see? Well, Jiejie has been performing and been outstanding and constantly improving in so many of his performances. So I'm delighted that we're getting to see him now really hit the trajectory that obviously EDG were expecting with him. And obviously he's been learning a lot from Clearlove as well, who has been pointing out how he can improve in the back line. But you can see it, engages, phenomenal. His carry performances, and we're getting to see them now, are really up